The Republican field of presidential candidates is getting bigger by the day. Retired neurosurgeon Ben Carson and former Hewlett-Packard CEO Fiorina officially entered the race today. Former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee is expected to announce his bid for president this week as well. Carson actually had a gospel choir perform an a cappella version of an EMINEM song before taking the stage in Detroit. He's a conservative. He's the first presidential candidate to launch his campaign with an EMINEM remix, that's for sure. I think we should just play that out. Love it. What a great version. Joining me with more analysis on all of this, on the serious stuff, is CBS News senior political editor Steve Chaggaris. Steve, let's talk about all of these candidates with no political experience. And the GOP has been complaining that President Obama didn't have enough political experience. So how much of a long shot is this for Fiorina and Ben Carson, who's a retired neurosurgeon?
Yeah, it's tough to argue that they have a really great shot at this. These are people who have never held elective office. In Fiorina's case, she got destroyed in her Senate race in 2010, losing by 10 points. I think if people ultimately are looking for people who have political experience, then these might not be the right people. However, there is a sentiment within the Republican Party right now that they're looking for outsiders. What that means remains to be seen. Does it mean people who have zero political experience? I don't know. We'll see that as this campaign goes on.
Speaking specifically about a little bit more about these candidates, Dr. Carson has really taken people in the GOP with some of his speeches, and he's sort of made a political name for himself. Fiorina has this business acumen and tremendous wealth. So what are their pros?
So, well, let's look at Carson first. I mean, this is a guy who is very well respected in the medical field and got out there and criticized President Obama to his face a couple of years ago on Obamacare at the National Prayer Breakfast, which really got the Tea Party and the religious right very, very excited. So there's this grassroots support for Ben Carson, who, you know, and he shows he can actually raise some money. These super PACs that have tried to draft him to run have raised millions of dollars to push him into this race. So there is a base there for Carson to work with. Fiorina, on the other hand, again, her detractors will talk about her poor performance as the CEO of Hewlett-Packard, and they'll talk about her loss in the Senate race a while back. But what she brings to the table is she's actually been able to criticize Hillary Clinton from a woman's standpoint and not be called a sexist like some of these other male candidates on the Republican side probably would be if they hit Hillary as hard as she did. And she's making a bit of a name for herself in New Hampshire and Iowa and in the early states. So she has a long way to go, but at least she's getting some attention for the things that she's saying.
So these candidates all have a base around them, and so does Mike Huckabee. He has gotten a lot of attention for being on Fox News over the years, as well as the base that he galvanized from his last run. So he's the next to announce. What's his chance?
Well, see, he's coming from a different level, I think, than Carson and Fiorina, in the sense that he actually has won some elections, or at least primaries. He won in Iowa, and he won 6 other states in 2008. So he's well known within the Republican Party. He was a governor of Arkansas, so he has the elected experience. The question is, he's been out of the game since 2008. He has been on Fox. He's become a celebrity on the right with his Fox show, but he was never really known for his fundraising. And this is going to be an interesting year to watch all these candidates and how much money they'll be able to pull in. A lot of them are putting together super PACs where they'll get millions upon millions from billionaire donors. And Huckabee never really had the taste for that, never really was that good in 2008 in terms of raising money. So will he be able to compete financially with some of the other bigger names that are running?
I also have to ask you, you're talking about so many people running. It's a very crowded field. Doesn't this diminish their spotlight to be lumped all together in their announcement?
Yeah, a bit. I mean, but think about it this way. There's nobody really leading the pack right now in the Republican Party. It's completely unlike the Democratic Party, where it's a pretty much a foregone conclusion that Hillary Clinton's going to get the nomination, or at least that's what we think right now. The Republican side, you look at any of the polling and everybody's sort of bunched up. You know, you got a couple of people in double digits, but a lot of these folks are in single digits. So I think a lot of these folks that are jumping in feel that there's an opening for them. Now, whether that's true or not remains to be seen, but nobody's running away with this yet. So people like Huckabee and Carson and Fiorina, yeah, they're all lumped together. This is their moment to shine, even though they're getting in at the same time. You had Carly Fiorina doing national TV interviews. You had Carson getting live coverage for his speech. You'll have Huckabee the same on Tuesday. So they're going to have their moment in the sun. What can they do with it moving forward, and will it translate into something in terms of the polls down the road?
And these candidates are kind of outliers in a way. You know, women and African Americans who typically vote Democrat, how likely is it that Fiorina and Dr. Carson can siphon some of those voters away?
I don't think that's really going to be the issue in the Republican primary. African Americans are not a big part of the Republican Party, and so that's not going to be what gets Ben Carson the nomination. Women, on the other hand, it's an interesting question. Although there have been female candidates that have run before in the Republican primaries in past years and have not done very well. So for Fiorina, really, it's more about and for Carson, it's more about how many Republicans can they get to propel them to victories, or at least top 3 performances in Iowa and New Hampshire. It's not about necessarily African Americans. Women will be a part of that, but it's all about talking to the base and getting the Republican caucus goers and voters excited about their candidacies and propel them to pretty good showings in the early states.
Well, this crowded field certainly makes it more exciting for us viewers to observe. Steve Chaggaris, thanks.
Thanks.